All right, guys, welcome. Section 2.5, literal equations and formulas. So you're probably thinking, what the heck is a literal equation? We are going to get to it, so do not worry. Let me just get my pen out and we will be off. Okay, so a literal equation is just an equation that has two or more variables in it. So I mean two different variables. So if you have an x and y, if you have an s and a p, if you have a t and a q, if you have two or more different variables, it's called a literal equation. Okay? A formula is a little bit different. It's an equation that states relationships among quantities. So when I mean a formula, I'm talking about the formula for area, or the formula for the area of a triangle, or the circumference of a circle. So formulas that represent something, the relationships among things. So like I said before, area of a square, area of a circle, volume of a cylinder. So all of these things are considered formulas. Okay? So we are going to just jump right in and get started. I need to, hold on. Okay. Let me just, okay. So, I know it's a word problem, and I know that you guys don't have it written down, but if you want to pause, write it down. It's really not too much, and it would be nice to have it in your notes. Okay? So, this situation says that you have an equation 10p plus 5s equals 80. What this equation is telling you is that p is representing number of pizzas, s is representing number of sandwiches. Now, each pizza is $10. Each sandwich is $5, and you have a total of $80, okay? So we're talking about pizza, sandwiches, and the money that each cost, okay? Now, this equation is asking me how many sandwiches, so I'm looking for S, right? Because I want to know how many sandwiches can you buy if you're bought 3 pizzas, so if P equals 3, and then again, if P equals 6. Okay, so what you could do is you could plug in 3 for P and then solve for S, and then plug in 6 for P and solve for S. But we want to save time because I know we have to do it twice. So what if we just solve for S and then we can plug in from there? Okay, so what I'm first going to do is rewrite my equation. So the first thing I want to do is solve for S. Okay, so I want to get this S alone. So the first thing I need to do is move this 10p. I need to get it out of the way and move it to the right-hand side. So since this 10p is positive, I want to subtract. I'm using inverse operations again from both sides. Okay? So when I bring this down, I get that 5s equals, I cannot combine 80 and 10p. 80 and 10p are unlike terms. So all I'm going to do is just write them next to each other. And that is totally, whoa. Where is it? And that is totally okay. Okay? Last thing, I want to get this 5 away from the s, so I need to divide on both sides, okay? Now, when I divide on both sides, I have to divide everything by that number. It's a little bit different, okay? You need to remember that. You can't just divide one term. You have to divide everything by it. So I'm going to be left with s equals 80 divided by 5. That gives me 16. And then I have 10p divided by 5. Well, 10 divided by 5 is 2. And I still have that p. Okay? So now that I have solved for s, the first thing I'm going to do is plug in 3 for p, because I want to know if we bought 3 pizzas, how many sandwiches can we buy with those original $80? So I'm going to come over here, and I have s equals 16 minus 2 times p, but in this case, I know p is 3. So the 16 I'm just going to bring down, and what is 2 times 3? Well, that's 6. Which means that S is 10. What does that mean? That means that 3 pizzas can be bought with 10 sandwiches. Okay? You can't buy any more with those $80. You could buy less, but you would have money left over. And you want to know how much how many is the maximum that you could buy with those $80. So if I want to figure out how many pizzas we can buy, we're going to do the same. I mean, how many sandwiches we can buy when we have 6 pizzas, we're going to do the same thing. Now, I would be interested to know what you would think. If I'm buying more pizzas, do you think I'm buying more sandwiches or less sandwiches? Let's see. So I have that S equals 16 minus 2 times 6, because I'm buying 6 pizzas now. So my sandwiches equals 16 minus 2 times 6, which is 12. So I get that I could buy 4 sandwiches, okay? If I had more space, I would write a sentence. If you bought 6 pizzas, you would be able to buy 4 sandwiches with $80 total. And you could do the same thing for this other problem in blue. Okay? So it's really important to write down this problem. Take the time to do it because you don't want to look back and be like, what was I doing? Okay? Nice job. Let's get rid of this. And we are going to do the next one. Okay, so what is the equation you get when you solve ax minus bx? So let's rewrite this. Ax minus bx equals c. And I want to solve for x, okay? Now, I see x twice, but I don't see any numbers, so this kind of gets a little bit confusing. So if there were numbers there, let's just do a side note over here, okay? If there were numbers, like let's say there was 5x minus 2x, we would actually be doing 5 minus 2x, right? That's what we would be doing, and we would end up with 3x, correct? So we're actually going to do the same thing over here. So even though they're not numbers, what we would be doing would be this number a minus this number b. So I'm going to have a minus b x, right? Looks exactly the same, it's just no numbers instead. And then I'm just going to re-bring this c down, okay? Now, I can't combine like I did over here, but I can do something else. I know that when I have something on the outside of parentheses, it means multiplication. In order to undo it, I need to do the inverse operation, which is division. And that's what I really want to do because I want to get rid of this AB. I want to move it to the other side because I want x to be alone. So I want to divide by a minus b. They cancel. And I'm left with a minus b over here. So I get that x equals c over a minus b. Okay, so it's the same thing as when you do it with numbers. You can even practice with numbers just like I did on the left-hand side. But it really just is the same thing. So we are going to try another one like this. I can't go down though. Okay. We are going to try another one just like that. Okay. So over here I have the same thing, just a different equation. So I'm looking to solve for x in my equation that reads negative t equals r plus px. Okay? So I really want to isolate this x, but it is attached to this p through multiplication, and I do have, I'm going to put a line down my equal sign. I do have this r on the right-hand side. I don't see a number in front of it. I don't see a sign in front of it, which means that I know it's positive. So in order to get rid of it, the inverse operation is subtraction, and also over there. So t and r, they are unlike terms. They are two different variables, so I'm just going to write them right next to each other. So I have negative t minus r, and that equals px. Now, p and x, we discussed up here that they are connected through multiplication, so I want to get rid of it by division. Divide by p, and then divide everything by p, which means I'm left with x equaling negative t minus r all over p. Okay? Takes a lot of practice. Please come to class with notes. It's really, really important, and questions. A couple more. I need you guys to write down the following formulas in your notes. So we discussed what we've been working with before were literal equations. What we're going to be working with now are formulas, and you have this definition in the beginning of this section, but formulas, again, are equations that state relationships between quantities. So they're representing something. So like we have here, perimeter of a rectangle, circumference of a circle, area of a rectangle, distance traveled, temperature. They're all formulas that represent something. So please write this chart down. It's really important. And we are going to use some of these formulas in the next equation. Okay? All right, here we go. So our last example says, what is the radius of a circle with circumference 64 feet? So I see the word circumference, right? We don't see a formula, but I do see this word circumference. So if you look back in your notes from what you just wrote down, the formula for circumference of a circle is that C equals 2 pi r. And there should be a pi right here. Okay? So circumference equals 2 times pi times r, which represents radius, okay? So the question is asking me, what is the radius? So I know I'm looking for r. I want to isolate this r because that's what I know I'm looking for. So we are going to manipulate this formula and we're going to solve for r. Now the 2 pi r, it's all multiplication. So if I want to get rid of that 2 pi, because I want to get this r alone, I'm going to divide on both sides. Okay? So I know that whatever my radius is, it equals my circumference divided by 2 pi. Now I'm going to look back in my problem. Again, I want to know the radius, but I have the circumference. It's telling me I know the circumference is 64. So I'm going to plug in. So my circumference is 64 over 2 pi, and it's telling me to use 3.14 for pi, and that's going to equal r. Okay? So when I plug this into my calculator, I'm going to get 64 divided by 6.28, and that's going to equal roughly 10.2. And what are my units? Feet. Okay? So it's all about reading the question, figuring out what formula you need to use, and then working from there. So I want you to try the next problem on your own. It says, what is the height of a triangle that has an area of 24 inches squared, this should be, and a base with a length of 8 inches. So you're given the area of a triangle, you're given the base, and you want to find the height. Okay? So look back at that formula sheet, find the area of a triangle formula, and then go from there. Please write down questions. I will see you guys all in class.